Mic check for the YouTube stream. Mic check for the YouTube stream.
Good afternoon. In accordance with sections 45 and 53 of the Planning Act 1990 as amended, this meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the City of Toronto is called to order. The Committee of Adjustment considers applications for variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw that apply to the property, permission to extend or alter lawful nonconforming uses, and consent to sever properties to create new lots. My name is Nancy Oman and I will be chairing this hearing. Panel members joining me today are Anne McCauley, Mohammed Saeed, Don Taylor, and Gary McKay. We acknowledge that the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 of the Mississaugas of the Credit and the Williams Treaty signed with multiple Mississaugas and Chippewa bands. Committee of Adjustment public hearings are now conducted in a hybrid in-person and virtual format. Some submissions will be presented in person and others by electronic means through WebEx, an online digital platform. You can also watch our meeting live on the Toronto City Planning YouTube channel. Participants who want to participate virtually registered in advance and will be connecting to the hearing using a phone or a compatible electronic device and are able to participate via video or audio. Participants will be muted automatically upon entry. When your item is called, participants will be unmuted one person at a time by the moderator. Please mute your devices until called upon to speak. Those participating by video will be temporarily upgraded to panelists when their item is called, and during this time your camera will be enabled. You will only be visible during your 5-minute allotted speaking time. At all other times, your video will be disabled and you will be reinstated as an attendee. Committee of Adjustment staff will assist us by sharing presentation material received within the written submission deadline, and members of the public and applicants are not allowed to use the share screen or any other panelist controls during a video appearance. The host will remove you from the panelist role if you fail to respect this instruction. Those attending in person who wish to receive a copy of the committee's decision on an application must fill out the decision request card, and anyone attending virtually must submit a written request by email to the general email address for the Committee of Adjustment Scarborough District Office. Please include your name, address, and an email address. Committee of Adjustment and TLAB notifications and appeal updates will be sent by email only. If you do not agree with the decision of the committee, decisions may be appealed to the Toronto Local Appeal Body known as TLAB, or in some limited circumstances to the Ontario Land Tribunal. However, the provincial government recently amended the Planning Act and generally removed the rights of third parties to appeal Committee of Adjustment decisions. As of November 28, 2022, only the applicant, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, specified persons and public bodies, as those terms are defined in the Planning Act, are permitted to appeal decisions of the Committee of Adjustment. Appeal instructions are set out at the bottom of the decision of the committee. Where an application is uncontested, the agent or applicant may proceed with their presentation if desired. And when the committee does not require a presentation, applicants are to advise the chair should they wish to speak to the committee. The committee may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for a decision. Each speaker, including the applicant or agent, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee, and I'll comment when you're reaching the 5-minute mark. When addressing the committee, please speak slowly and clearly state your name and address. Please confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. The applicant or agent will proceed first with a presentation of the application, and then individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be invited to speak. Committee members may ask questions of each speaker after they have completed their presentation, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant or agent will be unmuted and will have an opportunity to rebut only those issues that were raised by the speakers. This will mark the end of the discussion, and the application will be taken into committee for a decision. When a presentation is not required, panel members may ask questions and or take the matter into committee for a decision. Please note, the committee may not entertain revisions to proposals at the hearing today. The committee may decide to defer the application if substantially revised to ensure that the revised application is accurate and that all those entitled to notice are informed of the changes. Staff and panel members, are there any declarations of interest in any of the items for this aft?
Through the chair, there are none from staff.
Okay, and I don't see any from the members. Okay, are there any files to be closed this afternoon? No?
Through the chair, there are none.
Deferrals.
Through the chair, we have two deferral requests for the afternoon session. The first one is item 22, 50 EMMELINE Crescent, deferral to the November 15th hearing in order to provide sufficient public notice.
Okay, and then item 26 also?
Through the chair, that's correct. Item 26, which is 40 McDiarmid Road, same reason, deferral to the November 15th hearing in order to provide sufficient public notice.
Okay.
I should note that for both of these applications, the applicants are not present. However, they have submitted deferral requests in writing, which are in your agenda packages.
Okay, well, I'm not showing any opposition speakers, Mr. Deputy Secretary Treasurer. I'm happy to deal with these now. If the applicants are in agreement with the deferrals, then...
Through the chair, I'm in your hands.
Okay, I think we can deal with it now. Okay, so let's do item number 22, which is EMMELINE, 50 EMMELINE Crescent. So...
Through the chair, the applicant is signed in now.
maybe he was listening in. Okay. All right, so can we have the applicant on the line, please, then? And maybe item 26 will be the next one if you're listening, if you want to log in. All right. Okay, so do we have the applicant there, then?
We have
Here,
unmuted.
please.
Hi, is this young you?
Speaking, please.
Hi, okay, you're asking, or there's a deferral request because the sufficient public notice was not given. Staff are able to schedule you on the next hearing, which is November 15th. So that gives you enough time to ensure sufficient notice is given. You okay with that?
Because it's just an addition in the rear yard. I have already talked to the owner to provide the notice in the front, and he provided the 11 by 17 page paper in the front door. And if you can, please, we can go ahead now. That would be better. I mean, to save the time in next.
Yeah, I'm sorry to cut you off, but there are, we have to meet certain requirements for the city, and I'll have our Deputy Secretary Treasurer weigh in on this. So as far as the city's concerned, the proper notification was not met.
Okay, so I'll ask the owner to correct it.
Yeah, please do. So then, and I think staff, they've gone out of their way to put you on the next hearing. So just make sure they do everything right this time so that you don't find yourself in the same position in November, okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so
Thank you.
panel members, we're in committee, so it's on the deferral for not providing sufficient public notice for the hearing. So I need a motion, Mr. Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I put forward motion for deferral of item 22 to the November 15th hearing in order to provide sufficient public notice.
Okay, and Mr. McKay, second?
Yes, I second that motion to defer.
Okay, so motion to defer, moved by Mr. Said, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor? And that carries. Okay, so item 26 is 40 McDairmid.
It's a McDermott. He actually was an
McDermott?
old city solicitor from
Oh,
Scarborough.
really? Okay,
Many years-
McDermott.
McDermott, yep.
I stand corrected. Okay, did the agent come in online or staff?
Through the chair, the agent is not online, but again, they've submitted a request, deferral request in writing.
Okay, so for this one also, there are no speakers listed on this, and is there anybody here for 40 McDermott? Nope. Okay, so on the deferral panel members, let's take it into committee, and again, this was because insufficient notice was provided. So I'll need another motion.
But,
Take it? Okay, Mr. Taylor.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I move deferral to enable proper notice, and that deferral would be to November the 15th.
Okay, do I have a second?
Yes, Madam Chair, I second that motion to defer.
Okay, so motion to defer so that proper public notice can be given, moved by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Okay, so now we go to item 18. Just give me a second. Okay, item 18, 11 Cross Hill Road. I'm not showing any opposition speakers. Is there anybody here for 11 Cross Hill? No? Okay, do we have the agent on the line?
Yes, my name is Gabriel Guiducci. I'm the agent for this application.
Hi, Gabriel. I don't think we need a presentation. Let me see if the members have any questions for you. Anybody have any questions? Not showing any questions. We're ready to make a decision on this. Anything you want to add that's not in the materials before us?
No, we've done, I think we cover everything that I think we needed to be covering, including support from neighbors adjacent to the proposal. So I will leave it up to the committee to make a motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Panel members, let's take it into committee. Ms. McCauley?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am ready to put forth a motion for approval. I think it meets all the tests. It's a very large house, but it's in a very large area and fits in well with the community. I was pleased to see there is letters of support, and I just need to check whether, no, there's no comments for no conditions.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve, moved by Ms. McCauley. Do I have a seconder for that? Mr. McKay? Okay.
Yes, Madam Chair, I'll second that motion to approve.
Okay, all in favor? That carries unanimously.
Thank you, committee. Chair, have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. Item number 19, 57 Nielsen Avenue. And again, I am not showing any speakers. Anybody here for Nielsen Avenue, number 57? No? Okay, we have a community planning's asking us to tie it to the site plan, and forestry's asking for condition number 2. Okay, do you have the applicant on the line?
Imran, you have been unmuted.
Yeah. Good afternoon. This is Imran. I'm the authorized agent of the owner. My address is 1906 Parkside Drive, Pickering. This is we proposed a two-story.
I was going to
house.
say, unless you want to do a presentation, we don't need one. We may have some questions. I think it's probably
Okay.
easier if I just see if there are any questions for you.
Okay.
Okay, so the panel members don't have any questions. We've read all the material. Is there anything that you want to add before we go into committee that's not in the materials we have before us?
No, I don't anything to add. I don't have.
Okay. All right, let's take it into committee then, panel members.
I'm okay.
You want to go ahead, Mr. Saeed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I put forward motion for approval of item 19, subject to community planning condition as well as urban forestry condition number 2.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that, Mr. McKay?
Yes, I second that motion to approve with those conditions.
Okay, so motion to approve with community planning's condition to tie it to the proposed site plan as well as forestry number 2. And that's moved by Mr. Saeed, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor? That carries. Mr. McKay, or Mr. Saeed, you're in favor, right?
Yes.
I know you are because you moved the motion, but you know. Okay, so that carries unanimously. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, good.
Item number 20, 25, 25 Lyndale Road. Planning's asking to tie it to proposed north elevations for the front, south elevation, which is the rear drawings. Urban Forestry is asking for conditions 1 and 2, and Ravine is asking for condition 1, and TRCA has no objections. They just want whatever permits are necessary to be applied for. Don't show any opposition speakers. Do we have the agent on the line?
Through the chair, you may wish to ask if there's anybody in the audience.
Yes, thank you for reminding me that.
I've had some architecture. I'm the architect.
Okay.
Good afternoon.
Bear with
I'm
me.
sorry, I don't know if you caught that. It's Will Hudson from Hudson Architecture.
Yeah,
I'm the,
I did.
yeah, okay.
I
great.
did. Just give me 1 second to check if there's anyone here physically for this application. Is there anybody here? No? Okay, Mr. Hudson, I'm not sure we need a presentation. I don't think the panels do. We're going to go to questions, if that's okay.
Of course.
All right, any questions, panel members? Ms. McCauley?
This is not a question, it's a comment. I like to indicate my pleasure when I see that the applicant has done his homework and has identified other lots with the same coverage and the same height in the area. That certainly helps us when we're reviewing your applications.
So you did a great job with your presentation materials. So, Mr. Saeed has a question for you also.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question to the applicant, variance number 3, talking about the number of stories. So, is this a 2-story building or a 3-story building?
It is a 3-story building, and the architectural intent is that you really don't know that. So that from the street, the massing of the third floor is set to the back, and unless you move to the side, you're unaware that there's actually a third story. So it's a third story in roofline area that we're proposing.
So technically speaking, from the street view, it will be a two-story building, right?
They do read that way, and without flattering myself, we did a very similar build at 33, and I think it may be part of the support material. And unless, as I said, unless you move to the side or get a kind of oblique view of the house, you don't know that there's a third story. And we were very careful to make sure that we observed the height requirement. So you'll note there's no height variance as part of this application.
And I understand there are condition of urban forestry, condition number 1 and 2. Could you tell me like how many trees are going to be injured or removed from the property?
It's a sensitive area, and I think the number of trees is relatively small. I'm sorry, I don't have that in front of me, but there are some small cedars, like very small. Everything's protected because it's TRCA. So they're very small diameter clustered cedars at the back. And we, as part of the build, we'd have to remove them. There's actually a swimming pool back there, which we're going to demolish. So some of the demolition interferes with the trees back there, but we've got an arborist. We've had extensive conversations with TRC and forestry. So we're coming up with an agreement to replan and payment in lieu.
Yeah, I'm looking at the street view and yeah, there are big trees just to the neighbors, right? And I was just worried that this is going to impact on those big trees, but you're confirming that there will no such damage to even to the property nearby, right?
No, we can, and forestry's reviewed this too, and I'm sure they would have stepped in and said it's verboten. So no, generally speaking, forestry and TRCA are on board, and we're not going after any of the mature trees back there.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McKay has a question for you.
So you're aware that there are urban forestry conditions 1 and 2. Have you seen those and agree with those?
Yeah, absolutely, no problem.
Are there any other questions, panel members? Okay, I'm not seeing any more questions, Mr. Hudson. Anything you want to add that's not in the presentation materials?
Just briefly, and it's that the neighbor at 27 phoned my clients yesterday to wish us luck. So it wasn't formally submitted, but they are on board too.
Okay, thank you. All right, panel members, let's take this into committee then.
Okay.
I'll need Ms. McCauley.
Okay, thank you. I move approval of these variances, subject to tying the buildings, the community planning tied to the proposed north elevation and the south elevation drawings, urban forestry conditions, ravine bylaw conditions, TRCA, they're happy, but they need a permit. And I believe that is all the conditions.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that? Mr. McKay?
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion to approve with those conditions.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve with the planning conditions, urban forestry conditions 1 and 2, ravine condition number 1, and the TRCA. I'm not sure if that's a condition for the permits, but I'll leave it to staff to put it in.
Through the chair, those are conditions.
Condition for the permit. Okay, so with those conditions, that's moved by Ms. McCauley, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 21, 115 Tower Drive. Okay, I don't have any opposition speakers. And we have Forestry's asking for condition number 2, sorry. And do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, this is Sherwin Parson. Do you have my votes?
I'm sorry?
You have me?
I have you, yeah. Okay, I don't think we need a presentation, sir. Panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? No? You have a
I'll just
question?
say it's good to see a garden suite proposal.
Okay, so we don't have any other questions that I can see. We have one variance before us. So, sir, is there anything you want to add that's not in the materials before us? We're ready to make a decision on this.
No, Madam Chair. This item is just left
Did I?
behind.
Oh,
No, nothing to add.
really?
We already approved it in June.
No, there's only one variance here. Okay, yeah, you're confused. I'm like, what did I miss? Okay, no, there's one variance. Okay, sir, so you have nothing to add, so let's take it into committee. Mr. Saeed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There is only one variance before the committee, and actually, in June 1st meeting, we already considered the nature of the variance, but anyway, it's good to catch if something was left over there. So with that, Madam Chair, I will put forward motion for approval of item 21, and there is urban forestry condition number 2.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a seconder? I think Ms. McCauley beat you.
Good.
There you go, so.
I'll second that motion.
All right, so motion to approve, including forestry condition number 2, moved by Mr. Saeed, seconded by Ms. McCauley. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Okay. Now we go to item number 23.
Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. Which is 62 WATERBRIDGE Way. And again, I don't show any opposition speakers on this one. Community planning asking us to tie to site plan. TRCA has a condition and Ravine has no conditions. Okay, do we have the applicant on the line?
Yes, Madam Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, I just need your name for the record, please.
Yeah, this is Abu Bakr Bakri from Alpha Engineering Design. I'm the applicant and the agent of 62 WATERBRIDGE Way.
Okay, sir. Panel members, we have 3 variances before us. Do you have any questions for the applicant? No, not seeing any questions, sir, so that means we're ready to make a decision on this. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the material that's before us?
No, we're good.
You're good? Okay, let's take it into committee for a decision then. Any comments? Motion? Both? Mr. Taylor?
Got a simultaneous hand up the hand,
okay,
hand going here.
Whoever wants to.
Anyway, I'll take a stab at this, and hopefully my colleagues will be satisfied. Madam Chair, I find the 3 variances requested meet the 4 tests under the Planning Act. I move approval, subject to the community planning condition and the TRCA conditions.
Okay. So, Mr. McKay, did you want a second? Did you want to add something?
I'll be happy to second that motion for approval with those conditions.
Okay, so motion to approve, moved by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. McKay, including condition to tie it to site plan and TRCA condition. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Okay. Item number 24. 21 FAIRCROFT Boulevard. I believe we have some people here in person. How many of you are speaking to this one? Are you you're just observing? Can I just get your name, please, then? That's Teresa Hall, okay. Did you sign up at all to speak also or not? I have, but are you Josh Prentice by any chance or no? You? No? Okay. You're David Middleton? Dan Middleton. I have a David Middleton here. Okay. I guess it's Dan. So you're the owner then? Is that, no? Okay. All right. Gotcha. Okay. And then do you have the other speaker online? Yes? Okay. If I could have the agent, then that'd be great.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Trevor Gain. I'm the agent here on behalf of the owners.
Good afternoon. I do have speakers, so can you please do a presentation no more than 5 minutes?
Certainly. So the application...
do you need, but before you start, do you need anything on the screen?
Yeah, sure. Maybe I think I submitted some presentation material.
Okay. All right, staff will put that up for you then.
Yeah. The application before you is basically a lot severance. We have kind of a large single-family dwelling on a large, well, it's a small single-family dwelling on a large lot. And what we're looking to do is to convey this into 2 parcels. So we have not designed dwelling units or houses for these. Basically, what will happen is that these will be sellable lots for whoever wants to purchase them that can design their own home. So what we're trying to do is just establish the lot for them, kind of keeping the lot pattern of the community. And we roughed out essentially that you could build approximately 4,000 square foot homes, so fairly large homes, which is what is sort of in keeping in this area. So what's on the screen right now, this is a satellite view. FAIRCROFT Boulevard is on the left, Pine Ridge Drive is on the right. This is a through lot that kind of comes in together at Kingston Road. So on the east side of this lot is a gas station. Flanking on the opposite side, on the west side, it's an apartment building. And then as the streets head towards the south, it becomes single family dwellings in various lot sizes, various house sizes. Can you scroll to figure 2? It should be a map. So just keep scrolling. You're kind of in a different what I wanted, but it's in there. So keep going. Past all the photographs. It's a diagram of a lot pattern. So just photographs of the surrounding areas, what you see. So keep going, please. Kind of running out of time. Anyways, just briefly on the lots. Our existing lot is
through the chair.
Yeah, it's the clarification. Is that what you're going to ask me, or?
Well, it's a clarification in terms of these materials were submitted after the written submission deadline, so they should not be admitted.
Oh, okay.
I'm
sorry to cut you off, but apparently these materials were submitted after the submission deadline. I've been just advised, so I can't use them. And I'm sorry to cut you off midstream, but there's something else I'd like to clarify with you. On the variances for what's listed in our stuff as 24B for 21 FAIRCROFT, there's actually an error, and it is not your error. It's on variance number 2, which says the minimum required lot area is 2067.19 square meters, and then it says the proposed lot frontage is 1,006.6. It should actually read area, not frontage, and I need you to just officially amend that. I know, again, it's not your error, it's a typo, but just can you amend that for the record, please? Have you found it, what I'm referring to?
Through the chair, it's on the screen right now.
Yeah, it's on the I'm speaking to you, so we'll start the clock. We'll stop the clock, and then I'll give you an extra minute after for your presentation, but I should have clarified this up front, and since we interrupted you anyway over the submissions, might as well do that now. So,
yeah, I accept the typo, and yeah, that should read frontage or area, lot area, not frontage.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then one other question, again, the lot frontage of 10.05, is that correct? Because you're here on a waiver, right? That's on the, can you guys?
Yep, the numbers are correct.
Okay, so just to be sure that you're aware that, you know, if there is incorrect variances, you'd have to come back.
Through the chair, what we'll do is we will put the draft plan, we will share our screen with the draft plan so everybody can see it.
Okay, so sorry about the interruptions. Hope I haven't totally thrown you off, but so staff's going to put up what Colin just referenced. And then can you guys set the clock maybe for 4 minutes, reset it at 4 minutes? Do you mind, please? It'll be easier. Okay, are we set then? Okay, Trevor, sorry about the interruptions, but please proceed.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I was pretty sure I submitted everything before the deadline, so I'm not sure what happened there. But regardless, so the existing lot is about 2,067 square meters, and the pair of lots that we're proposing, as per the variances which we just discussed, is one lot at 1,006 square meters, and the second lot will be at 1,060 square meters. So the two properties directly south of this at number 19 and number 50, Pine Ridge and Faircroft Boulevard, both of those lots are a severance that happened, I think, in 2003. Those are 1,200 square meters and 980 square meters. So the lot pattern that we're proposing is pretty much in keeping with this kind of a little immediate pocket. And then as the lots head further south, the frontage are similar. And of course, there's bigger lots as we go further. So what we're proposing here, in our opinion, is completely in keeping with the kind of lot pattern and lot characteristics that's happened in this neighborhood. We did submit that planning rationale report, which was just on the screen, and our planners kind of documented all that. So I don't know if the committee members had a chance to peruse that. But all in all, we think what we're proposing here is right for the area. Thank you. That's my presentation.
Sorry, I know I asked you about, but can you please clarify the lot frontages? Because it seems to, like what is it, what does that 10.05 represent on the, staff have put the schematic on the screen there?
Yeah. Through the chair, we'll zoom in a little bit so you can see. Because of it's an irregularly shaped lot.
I don't know, there should be a schematic site plan that I submitted, which would show it a lot more clearer.
But you say the number is correct, right?
The numbers are correct, yeah. So if you just scroll down a little bit, we'll start with part one. So the existing lot frontage it runs along the left side and fronts onto Faircrest. So part one, which is the corner property, the definition of frontage is the smallest property line in that whole thing. So part one, the 10.05 square meters is right at that right at the proposed driveway, which comes off of Pine Ridge. But in actuality, if we just continue that lot line to the top of the screen, it's actually around 32 meters long, which again, there's lots of 30-meter, 40-meter lots in that area. So that's just sort of a technicality that we're proposing something that's 10 meters, but the true frontage is closer to 32. If you scroll down to part two, that frontage, again, we're asking for 18.34, and that's kind of defined from, I guess, the black dot heading up to part one, but there's, we have a little bit more as it kind of heads down around the corner closer to the neighbor, and that lot frontage is closer to 40.5 meters in total linear length. So basically what we did is reoriented the houses, put the frontage off of Pine Ridge compared to Faircroft. And that was mainly done simply because in that section of Faircroft, there's no services. So for the neighboring properties just to the south of us, when they did that severance, they had to create an easement and bring all the sewer and sanitary and everything from Pine Ridge all the way over to Faircrest, where in our proposal, it just makes sense to front right onto Pine Ridge, given we have some houses across the street too with similar frontage in areas.
Okay. Ms. McCauley, you have a question?
Yes, if we can just have a bit of a clarification. I'm looking at the drawing that they have provided here, and so you're saying both lots, you're using the frontage of both lots onto Pine Ridge, and so the lot, Part 2, has a frontage of 18.34 meters on Pine Ridge, and Part 1 has a frontage of?
10.05.
10.05, is that right?
Yeah, 10.05.
That's correct.
So you're doing 10.05 on Part 1 because you're doing it from the Part 2 up to the top of the lot, is that correct? It's almost like a thumb, and so I'm trying to
It's sort of a, it's
figure out where you're doing your
it's
your
kind of a
frontage.
technical thing because the lot is made up of a bunch of arcs. So the definition of lot frontage is the smallest segment. So that 10.05 is the smallest segment before another arc continues to the top of the thumb. So that's what I was trying to say earlier, that on paper, our frontage by definition is the 10.05, but in realistic or walking the site, that frontage is closer to 32 meters when you go from the proposed property line all the way to the black dot at the top of the thumb before it loops around and comes back down to FAIRCROFT again.
Okay, thank you. I was very confused about this because that frontage for Lot 1, I guess it is, looked pretty long. But your explanation that the frontage comes from Part 2 to the first arc then adds up to 10.05, and that makes some sense to me. So you're...
Yeah, we all scratched our heads, and the zoning examiners did their job when we were trying to figure this all out back when we put it together.
Okay. All right. I didn't have any problems with it. I just couldn't make the numbers make any sense to me.
We have objectors too. Do you want the question answered now, or Mr. Saeed?
Madam Chair, maybe I can get this correction from you because we corrected one of the typo there.
Yeah.
Could you just give that numbers one again? I was just...
Well, we corrected the typo from front
what,
to lot
24B?
It's, yeah, B, variance 2.
Variance 2. Is it for 24C as well? Because the same typo is there.
Colin?
On variance 2, 24C.
Actually,
I can confirm it is. Both of them are written that way.
Through the chair,
Yeah.
that's correct, Mom. Member side is correct. So if the applicant is okay with an amendment to both,
so can we do it for the other one as well, then, the amendment? You're okay with that, Mr. Gain?
Yep, we're okay with that.
Okay, great. Thanks for pointing that out.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the, well, I'm assuming the opposition, and Ms. Hall. Did you want to come? Yep, up front. No, you have to come because it's all recorded, so you have to come up here. And then when you get there, if you could just state your name and address first. Great, thank you.
Would I be able to ask him some questions?
No, unfortunately, the process is such that you put all your questions out there, and then after I hear from the second person who's online, then we'll have Mr. Gain back, and then he has 5 minutes to address all the questions raised.
All right. My name is Teresa Hall, a longtime homeowner in the neighborhood, 30 years at 3100 Kingston Road, and now residing at 3207 Kingston Road. I've noticed not once did he mention the mature trees on the property. As an award-winning published poet, I would like to speak on behalf of the incredibly beautiful trees on this property. There are spruce trees, Norway pine, there's black walnut trees, and silver maple. And we know there's a great horned owl in one of the trees. It's a huge amount of trees on this property. It's almost park-like. Not once has he mentioned the trees, whereas I noticed with another property, they did mention the trees and how they were taking care of those. And caring about the urban forestry part of it. I wasn't quite clear on how many houses were going to be built on this property. It's a huge property. It spans the Faircroft and the Pine Ridge, looping right around. And did he make it clear how many houses? He mentioned 2 lots.
Well, I'm going to ask him to clarify everything when he comes back.
I can't hear you, sorry.
Said when he comes back to speak, he will clarify everything.
All right, I'd like to know how many houses are built on the lot and what they're going to do to preserve these incredibly mature trees. And also make the point that a house is much better if it's shaded by trees in the hot summer. And of course, we need to keep our tree canopy as much as possible.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions for Ms. Hall? Okay, so you've raised all your questions? So you want to know
Yes, I think that's it.
and the trees?
Those 2.
Okay.
How many houses and how they're going to take care of these incredible trees.
Okay, hopefully he can answer all your questions.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. If I could have the other speaker, please.
Josh, you have been
My
unmuted.
name is Josh Prentice. Okay, my name is Josh Prentice of 15 Faircroft Boulevard. I'm objecting today for the severance due to the fact that we've moved to this area. We enjoy the setting of having single family dwelling homes. I understand that if you sever the property that you can erect 2 more houses on that property, which isn't in the plan right now, but would be in the future. But this would also promote other homeowners probably to do the same thing. And I can only object to the fact that I want to keep the area somewhat private, the way it has been, just secluded, kept away, not too much traffic. I feel that in the years to come, if we allow this to happen, I believe I just heard that there was another property that's severed, but I just don't want to have more homes being severed, and this creates more traffic. Again, the lady before who mentioned the trees, that completely slipped my mind. That's the other thing, the nature aspect of the area would be taken away, which, I mean, I take my dogs on walks all over Faircroft, Pine Ridge, and we enjoy the scenery. We enjoy looking at the beautiful homes, and we enjoy that privacy. So that's I really don't have any questions. I'm here to object just solely for the fact that I want to keep the area the same and not interrupt anything that's already there. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, any questions for the speaker? Okay, apparently there is a David Middleton on the line, but I'm assuming, is David, sorry, Dan, is David your brother, or?
David's my brother, yeah, he's in Calgary.
Does he just want to say he supports his application? Because it's either splitting the time between the agent or, so how do you want to handle that? Do you know? No? Okay, well, let me ask him then. Can you put David on the line?
Dave, you have been unmuted.
Hi, David. Are you there?
Yes.
Hi, are you just listening?
Yes, I'm here.
Are you listening in? Because we've already had the presentation, which was handled by your agent. Your brother is here in the audience listening, and now it's time for the agent to come back and speak to the issues raised. So are you just listening, or did you, because if you want to say something, you have to share it with the 5 minutes that's left.
Yeah, all I'm here is to really observe what is going on and in any support that Trevor needs in this application or any questions that Dan, who is sitting there, can't answer. So anyway, I pass the time on to Trevor to answer any of your questions.
Okay, great. So if Trevor's stuck, and then he can call upon you or your brother. Okay. So, Mr. Gain, are you there?
Yes, I'm still here.
So-
Staff, could I have my site plan put back up? Yeah, okay, so to answer the questions, the number of houses proposed will be 2. The existing dwelling, which is kind of the dotted outline at the top of the screen, 1-story bungalow, essentially, that'll be demolished and it'll make way for a single-family dwelling on on part 1 and part 2. So two houses in total. Regarding the trees, so this footprint, the dotted footprints that you see of the proposed houses, is just a schematic. It's really to help zoning and everybody understand that houses can be built of substantial size to fit in the neighborhood without the need of any minor variances. Setbacks work, height, coverage, everything can be easily applied for, and those houses are in the neighborhood of 4,000, which is typical on the street. So the advantage of having this large lot, as the neighbors are mentioning, is that these houses are going to sit in the middle. So all around the perimeter, all the trees, the hedges, everything potentially is going to remain. So all the privacy would be the same. Only in the perimeter, some smaller trees might be taken down to accommodate the houses, but that'll be dependent of whoever designs the houses and whoever purchased the lots and how they want to locate it. There is an urban forestry condition, and we've been working with them on that. And of course, that if the committee seeks approval, that we would just have to deal with forestry. Whatever tree is going to come down, whether it can come down or not, that's just between forestry and the designers. But essentially, only the smaller trees within the middle would come down. Lastly, about the traffic and the privacy. Right now, the driveway comes off of FAIRCROFT. Our frontage are now on Pine Ridge, so any additional traffic, which is really just one additional family, would come up the Pine Ridge side. So I don't think we would have an influx of like a subdivision or a lot of traffic. All the city comments that came back are supporting, including engineering and traffic, transportation. So I think this has very negative impact on the neighborhood.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Yang? Okay, and you're aware of the heritage report, right?
Yeah, yes, we got those, no problem.
Okay, all right. There don't appear to be any other questions, so let's take it into committee for a decision. Ms. McCauley.
Madam Chair, now that we've got it clear as to what are the dimensions of the 2 lots being created in terms of frontage and lot area, I'm prepared to recommend approval of this consent application, subject to the conditions of development engineering, heritage planning for the archaeological assessment, and the urban forestry conditions.
Through the chair, there are no engineering comments for this application. They only had advisory comments. And the urban forestry conditions are suggested that the urban forestry conditions be tied to the minor variance applications. Should the committee approve the minor variance application, should be approved as amended, subject to the urban forestry conditions.
Do you need standard consent conditions on this or not?
We put them in. You don't need to indicate that.
Okay.
We will include those.
Okay. So the motion then, as outlined by Ms. McCauley, is to approve the application. Can we do them all together?
My suggestion would be do the consent first, subject to the heritage, and then the 2 minor variance applications as amended, subject to the urban forestry.
Okay. So Ms. McCauley, then to approve the consent for starters with the heritage conditions.
Okay.
Okay. And do I have a seconder for that? Okay, Mr. Taylor seconds that. All in favor? That carries unanimously. And then, Ms. McCauley, for both of the consents then, we need forestry number 2. And I guess...
archaeological.
Standard consent. They're advisory, right? Transportation and engineering.
That's correct. Just approve as amended, subject to urban forestry conditions, should the committee
be
supportive.
So as amended.
Sorry, where did the archaeological services come from?
That's a recommended condition for consent, which you approved already.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we just did that one. So now we just have forestry number 2, and then as amended for that change to state area instead of frontage on both B and 24B and C. So, Ms. McCauley, are you moving that then for the second parts?
Okay. I have part 1, sorry. Perhaps someone else can do the variances while I sort out the numbers here. Because we had to change them.
Well, we
Maybe-
we didn't change any numbers, did we? Only changed the wording from frontage to lot area on variance number 2 on part B and variance number 2 on part C. And that was amended by the applicant, but there was no changes to the numbers. So that's the only thing that was amended, and then the only other thing we need is forestry number 2.
Okay.
Okay?
I think I'm okay.
You're okay?
So, on variance application 24C, the minimum lot frontage is 52.73 meters. No, that's required, sorry. Proposed lot frontage in the variance to the zoning bylaw is 18.34 meters, and the proposed lot area is 1060.6 square meters. And that variance is, so a variance to frontage and lot area.
So you're not changing any numbers. The only amendment is where it says in variance 2, the proposed lot frontage, that's a typo.
It should say area, yes.
That's it. Everything's the same.
Yes.
And then the same for 24C, the identical thing, it just say lot area instead of frontage. So there's no change to the numbers or anything.
Through the chair, for purposes of simplification, it just be approved as amended, because we've already, the applicant's already submitted the amendments for the record. Approve as amended, subject to the urban forestry conditions for both minor variance applications. That's all that's needed.
Okay, I'm okay with that, but Anne's the mover. So are you good?
I am good.
Okay.
I'm not going to repeat it, though.
Okay, you don't have to repeat it. Okay, so that's moved by Ms. McCauley. And Mr. Taylor, do you want to second that one also?
I will do that.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? Okay, so this application carries. It's been approved.
Thank you. I want the applicant to know I spent an hour over this when trying to figure out his numbers. So I appreciate the fact that he has clarified the numbers. And I want the community to know that I didn't have any major problem with it, because I know that we're going to have conditions on forestry, which you've raised, conditions on access, which he said will be on Pine Ridge and not on Faircroft. So it's overall a good development. We just had to get our heads around the numbers that were in front of us.
Yes, I could see that.
Okay, so thank you everyone for coming out, and we're going to move on to the next item. Item number 25, which is 89 and 87 Euclid, as well as 29 DEVONRIDGE Crescent. I only show the agent. Is there anybody here to speak on this application? 29 DEVONRIDGE Crescent, 87 and 89 Euclid. No? Okay. So do we have the agent on the line?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chairman and members of committee. Janice Robinson here. I'm representing the owners of 87, 89 Euclid and 29 DEVONRIDGE Crescent.
Good afternoon. Again, I don't think we need a presentation on this one. Do any of the panel members have any questions on this? Ms. McCauley.
Okay. I see that Urban Forestry is recommending that the applications be denied as it will destroy healthy bylaw protected trees. Janice, have you had the opportunity to talk to Urban Forestry and how you're going to look at the number of trees and the protection of them on this property?
Yes, I can speak to that. So they're asking, Urban Forestry is asking that the consent be denied and that this land remain vacant instead of the new houses getting built on DEVONRIDGE Crescent. I did not call them because they've just said deny the applications. And I'm hoping that committee will approve the applications. The 5 trees are on private property. The block, if you could put the plan up, the colored plan that shows everything. This land is in a registered plan of subdivision that's been vacant. The block on DEVONRIDGE has been vacant for 30 years because they haven't had sufficient land to create the lots. The trees are situated such that the options are either the trees are saved or the houses get built. So I'll give you a brief description of these trees. They are not incredible trees. There's 2 white elms. They're fused together at the base. They're rated as only having fair trunk integrity. There's 1 sugar maple. It has a V union at the base, and one of the trunks is in poor condition. And it has decay in one of the main stems. There's a Manitoba maple, and it also has a V union at the base with branch defects. So 4 of the trees are what I would consider as having a bad habit. The 5th is a horse chestnut, and it's in fair condition with cavities in the trunk. So the proposal, the trees would have to be removed in order to build these houses. It makes no sense to say that this land should remain vacant when it's in a subdivision that was developed in the 1990s. I know 2 new houses isn't going to solve the shortage of housing that we have, but to me, it makes sense to complete this community. The consents will be 2 new infill residential lots, which is encouraged in the city's housing policies and by provincial policies. The land's been vacant for 30 years, and it represents good planning to complete this street, build the 2 new dwellings that will be facilitated by the consents.
Okay, any other questions, panel members? Mr. Taylor and then Mr. Said.
Yeah, just a comment. Janice, from listening to you, it sounds like you might not be aware of a memo from Urban Forestry on this property dated August 10th.
Oh, I am aware of it.
Okay, I thought you started off saying they don't want to approve it, and you do.
No. Urban Forestry, their recommendation was that committee deny the applications.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
And so
you
what
kind
I
of
am
stopped
saying,
there.
I am asking.
At that point, you kind of stopped there and didn't acknowledge that they had subsequently said they're okay with condition 2 and 3.
Oh.
No, I
didn't see that.
Sorry, just to clarify, I think that's if committee decides to approve, we
Yeah.
have to put those conditions in.
Right.
It's not
Okay.
that they're happy about them, but
No.
that's the
No.
alternative. Okay,
Okay.
Mr. Said.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Janice, I was just wondering, you have a very strong opinion about these trees, and you said these trees has to be removed, and there is a logic what you mentioned in your presentation. But I was just wondering, have you taken up this matter with the Urban Forestry in the same way like you are presenting over here, and still, because there is a memo and they clearly saying that the committee should refuse this, right? Although there is a second option, but have you discussed this, and what were your findings? Like why this is a strong opinion from your side and at the other side too?
Well, so the tree report was submitted, and you can see the photographs of the trees there. And the issue here is that there is no way to situate houses at 29 and 31 DEVONRIDGE and keep these trees. There is ample space in the rear yards to plant new replacement trees, native species that will be in much better condition than these trees, which are very mature and they're only in fair condition. So it really is an either or. And I actually wasn't aware that they had said if committee approves it, conditions 2 and 3, which is great. But I really hope that committee will see that DEVONRIDGE has 2 vacant lots on it, and that it's appropriate and desirable to have 2 new dwellings and complete this street, instead of saying that this land has to stay vacant for all time while these trees live there. They're private trees on private property. And to say that residential lots, dwellings should not be built because of the trees is very extreme.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yep, go ahead, Ms. McCauley.
Okay. Janice, that really was why I asked you the question, is that there trees on the property, they probably are old and decrepit and probably need to be taken down. And given the options of take down those trees and build new houses, I certainly think we would approve new houses. But we would also approve an agreement with urban forestry that the 3 trees that you take down are replaced either with trees elsewhere or by a monetary donation. And that's why I was asking, have you talked to urban forestry about how you want to do that? And I gather you weren't aware that urban forestry has added another letter saying that there is an option that often is provided when you can't save the trees, but overall Toronto wants to keep its tree canopy. So the option is that trees be planted elsewhere, whether it be on this property or elsewhere within the city.
Oh, and the owner would be in agreement with those conditions.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Standard conditions.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good. So that's what I was looking for, your statement that the owner would be in agreement with those conditions that would satisfy the urban forestry condition. We will add that condition to our approval here.
I just have a question to the Deputy Secretary Treasurer. I'm just looking at forestry condition 2 and 3.
That would be great.
Sorry, I'm just talking to Colin for a second. So the private trees, so if 3 are removed under condition 2, do they have to replace it with 3 trees? Because I'm not sure.
Through the chair, this conditions 2 and 3. Can I ask? Yeah, there you go. We've got the conditions on the screen right now. Like these recommendations do not call for replacement trees. That only applies to street trees. If street trees are removed.
And so that's what I was that's why I'm asking. So can the committee put an additional condition in that any private trees that are removed are also replaced wherever possible with trees? Because it seems that these are predominantly private trees.
I would caution the committee on that because the committee is going to be, they're not going to be able to administer that process. It'll be urban forestry. Urban forestry has not recommended that condition. So they will not administer those, I guess, like the letters of credit to secure those replacement trees because they did not recommend those conditions.
If the applicant agrees, which I think she said they do, can we put something like that they undertake to do it as a note or something in that it's not a condition that staff has to fulfill?
That's a possibility if you want it, and it can get reflected in the minutes for the record.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Item 2 says submission of a complete application for a permit to injure or remove a privately owned trees.
Yeah, that's what I was actually reading. If you go to but it's different. So if you go to the second, the UFS conditions one, and if you scroll down, conditions 2 and 3 do talk about private trees. That's actually the one I was looking at. So, again, I'm not sure. I don't know.
Through an abundance of caution, the committee may wish to consider just urban forestry. If the committee approves this, They would like conditions
2 and
2 and 3 imposed, right, to protect the city's interests.
Right, but again, to Ms. McCauley's point, like in this second memo here, forestry 2 and 3 talk about a private tree, and then it talks about a street tree in condition 3, right?
Which is not subject of this.
Right, so the first one is just to get a permit to injure. It doesn't talk about replacement. So we're kind of back to putting it in the on the record thing, right? If we want the private ones replaced.
Correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I've got a question, I guess for Colin staff, about condition 3. Urban Forestry memo says, payment in lieu of planting 1 street tree for each of the sites involved in the application. How many sites are involved in this application? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Through the chair, that's a good question. I would suggest it would be based on the proposed lots. Typically, what urban forestry will do is they will say condition 3 times 2, right? So that means 1 street tree per lot, and in most cases it's 1 into 2. In this case, it's 2 into 4, 2 lots into 4. They have not recommended that. They just said condition 3. So it would be my interpretation of that it's just 1 tree, street tree, in the right of way.
Okay, are there any other questions? Okay, Janice, anything you want to add before we go into committee, and just your take on putting it in the as on the record to replace any private trees that are removed?
I am in agreement with a condition about replacement of the trees. And if you have any other questions, if committee members have any other questions about the variances or the consents, I'll be pleased to answer them.
Okay, I think we're ready to go into committee to make a decision on this. Okay, we're in committee, panel members. Okay, well, I'll just start. I went on a cruise through Scarborough to do site visits because anyway, I went to this site. Personally, I think this is an ideal site, the way this lot is, and to put the 2 homes on that existing kind of almost subdivision. I think Janice said it's 30 years old. I think it makes perfect sense to put houses there from a planning perspective. I do hope that every effort will be made to preserve as many trees as possible and replace where necessary. So I'm in support of this because I do think this represents good planning. But I am in your hands for a motion. Ms. McCauley.
Okay, I will make a motion to approve the consent applications and the variance applications all in one thing, subject to the conditions of, now development engineering doesn't have any conditions, so they don't have to enter into an agreement, but they will have to satisfy development engineering. Transportation services are okay. An archaeological assessment is required as a condition. And then we have the urban forestry, as we discussed. We would like to add urban forestry condition number 2, submission of a complete application for a permit to injure or remove privately owned trees as per the City of Toronto code. I think that's everything.
I think
Through the chair.
I was going to say maybe we need to clarify that the heritage conditions are on 29 Euclid Avenue.
Through the chair, I wanted to clarify that. Actually, that should be So the, as a point of clarification, the heritage conditions should be imposed on the consent for 29 DEVONRIDGE and the consent applications for 89 EUCLID. And the urban forestry conditions would be on all 3 consent applications. And it should be and the urban forestry conditions are conditions 2 and 3.
Okay, and then also, if you can do it for the record, that, that the applicant.
The replacement?
That they will undertake replacing private trees wherever possible.
Through the chair, we'll do that. We'll reflect that in the minutes.
Okay. Okay, so you've got it down then for what the motion is, or do we need to repeat it?
We have it down. Just want to make sure the committee members are okay with that.
I can repeat it if you want. So, okay, so the motion is by Ms. McCauley to approve the consents as well as the consent and the variances. The heritage is on the consents only for 29 Euclid and 89 DEVONRIDGE, and forestry conditions number 2.
89 Euclid and 29 DEVONRIDGE. It was a typo in our notes. Our apologies.
Okay, am I like losing it here?
It's 29 DEVONRIDGE.
I'm just reading what's here. Because when you said it, I was looking, I'm like, okay. All right, so on 89 Euclid, 29 DEVONRIDGE, the heritage conditions, and then for the record, as I just outlined, about undertaking to replace private trees that have been removed wherever possible. So that's moved by Ms. McCauley. Do I have a seconder for that? Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I'll second that. And I just want to make a comment on that condition 3. There, I raised a question about how many trees. If we impose this condition, it'll be up to urban forestry at implementation to tell the applicant how many trees they want, just in case we're wrong. So I'm quite happy just saying subject to condition 3.
Conditions, well, it's really
2 and 3.
It's 2 and 3.
2 and 3.
Yeah.
This is for the record, so that means that forestry does not have, isn't required to enforce it, right? That's why it's for the record.
Yeah.
So that it's an undertaking by the applicant, but it's not enforceable by the city.
But your undertaking has to do with trees on private property. I'm talking about
You're talking about
condition 2, their condition 3, which talks about replacing.
Street tree?
So I know I got a bee in my bonnet on this, but just.
Street trees they talk about.
Yes, street trees.
Yeah.
And I'm saying I'm no longer concerned about what our interpretation of it is of condition 3. It will be up to urban forestry at the time of sign-off to make the determination.
Yeah.
So I second the motion.
Yeah.
Unabashedly,
It might be
without
simpler to
reservation.
say subject to the conditions of urban forestry without saying it's what the conditions.
Well, we
1,
could say
2,
2 and
3,
3.
4, and 5.
We will ensure that 2 and 3 get
just say 2 and
implemented, and
3.
we will include the for the record.
Sure.
All right, so that motion then is moved by Ms. McCauley, seconded by Mr. Taylor. All in favor? That carries unanimously.
Okay, and that's the consents and the variances.
Everything, yep. We did it all. And all at once.
27.
Okay, so now, item 26.
Deferred, so we're on to 27.
So 26 was deferred, so we're going to 27, which is 3268 to 3272 Danforth Avenue. Okay, so engineering has this condition / advisory comments. And then transportation is also advisory comments, and Metrolinx. Are those conditions from Metrolinx, or is that also advisory? It doesn't say here. Let me check my notes.
Through the chair, those are
It's
conditions.
a condition, right? Yeah, engineering is a condition as well as advisory comments. And transportation is a condition also. Okay, I don't show any opposition speakers. Do we have the agent on the line?
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair. It's Alexander Soriano of Airden Burles. I'm legal counsel to the applicant, Kyra Holdings, Inc.
Hi, good afternoon. I don't think we need a presentation. Anybody need a presentation? If not, are there any questions? No. Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, I know we're dealing with a lapsed consent here based on an approval of December the 13th, 2018. And in that context, I'm curious about your view on the conditions of approval, should we go that way. Engineering and construction services, metro links, and transportation services. Do we presume that those conditions have not been met and need to be imposed, or do you dispute that?
Through the chair to Member Taylor, thank you for your question, sir. The lapsing of the original consent was largely an issue with respect to timing of a related minor variance application that proceeded with the original application, but was ultimately was approved by committee but appealed to the TLAB, and so the result was a discrepancy in the time between the two approvals, and ultimately resulted in a lapsing of the conditions for the consent. My client has reapplied and has reviewed the conditions that are being requested from ECS. Transportation has suggested conditions which are really repetitions of those in ECS, the ECS conditions and the Metrolinx conditions. The client has no concerns with respect to any of those conditions or the ability to fulfill them.
Okay, that's good to know. I just didn't want to be overly onerous, but that's good that you've thought that through. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Any questions? Okay, we have no more questions. We're ready to take it into committee. Anything you want to add that's not in the materials before us?
No, Madam Chair. Just simply, I'll address the statutory tests. I'll just note that the proposed consent from the applicant's perspective has appropriate regard for all the consent criteria set out in Section 51, subsection 24 of the Planning Act. A plan of subdivision of the lands is not necessary for the proper and orderly development of the site or the municipality, and as a result, we believe the consent should be approved. I'll also note that the consent is identical to that which was previously approved by this committee in 2018 before the conditions had lapsed. And if there's no more questions, I'll finish with my thanks to the committee.
Okay, thank you. All right, panel members, we are in committee. So, any comments? Motion, both? Mr. Saeed?
Thank you, Madam Chair. As my colleague mentioned, this is a lapsed consent, and thank you to the applicant confirming that everything stands status quo. There is no change as we approved previously. Madam Chair, I therefore put forward motion for approval of this consent application, subject to ECS conditions as well as transportation and Metrolinx conditions.
Okay, do I have a seconder for that motion? Mr. McKay?
Yes, I second that motion to approve with those conditions.
Okay, motion to approve with engineering, transportation, and Metrolinx conditions. Moved by Mr. Saeed, seconded by Mr. McKay. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Okay, our final item today is item number 28, which is 32 Aylesworth Avenue. And I'm showing two speakers. And do we have the agent on the line?
Michael Goldberg. I am the planning consultant for the owners.
Hi, Mr. Goldberg. I have two speakers, so can you do a presentation, please? No more than 5 minutes. And do you need us to put materials on the screen before you start?
Yes, we provided a presentation and I would appreciate that. I can go through that very quickly.
Okay, staff is looking for it now.
Great, I can start. Thank you, members of committee. So you have a consent and to allow for a lot to be divided in two so that two new single detached homes could be provided. This provides a bit of an impression of the lotting fabric in the neighborhood. And I can just tell you the neighborhood generally is populated with a wide range of lot sizes, including quite small lots. We are proposing 6.1 meter lots. Today it's a 12.2 meter wide lot, and that is a wider lot than generally what's occurring, although there is a range. Could you turn the page, please? So this is focusing on the block within which we are located. You can see we're 12.2 meters wide. The only other larger lot is across the street at 15.2. All the other lots in the area range from 5.8 to around 9 meters, lots of 7.5 and 7.6, 6.7. So within the range of smaller lots, you could see that the proposed lots would fit in quite well. And on that 15.2 meter wide lot is a 1.5. It looks like a bungalow, but it has a partial second floor. Next, please. That's the subject property there, and I'll ask you to take note of that street tree, which is planned to be preserved, and the way that was planned to be preserved, I'll show you in just a moment. So you can see there's a number of newer homes in the neighborhood that are tightly knit, that are small frontages, and I'll provide some additional pictures of the neighborhood in a moment. Next, please. So you can see this is on the block and the range of an eclectic range of homes. What's important in this case is for the smaller lots, the garage or the permitted parking space still needs to be behind the main front wall of the house. So the parking space is the garage itself. And this street is populated with a number of properties that have front-facing garages. You can see in view number 4, the only real difference between those two dwellings and the subject site is they have sort of a partial pitched roof where we will have a flat roof. But the main building walls, the garage, the elevation of the garage, and 2 living levels above remain basically consistent with that approach. Next, please. No, next, please. So here's the proposal, and what you can see is, you can see right at the top right-hand corner or northeast corner next to the 6.11, that's where the street tree is located. And we deliberately designed the driveway to have one curb cut through the street, and then it fans out to the 2 garages and the 2 private driveways. The reason for that was specifically so that street tree could remain and not be affected. I can tell you I have reviewed the forestry comments, the ECS comments, the transportation comments, and the Metrolinx comments. We have no objection to any of the requested conditions, and none of them are objecting to the application. And I'll note that city planning also is not objecting to or have not written in. In terms of the variances being requested, I can go through them. I notice my time is short now, but I can go through them. In terms of variance number 1, the GFA measures includes the basement level, which is very unusual. But on the 2 main living levels, what you have is 193 square meters. This house on the 2 main living levels above the garage is 2,087 square feet. These are not high, these are not big houses. I will say in terms of the lot area, it's a function of the frontage, which is quite normal for the area, and we're not asking for any building length. In terms of the lot coverage, if you go back, if the presentation can go back to the second page, you'll see that there's a number of homes in the area, the footprints in the home, which will mimic the footprints of what we have on the subject property. So in actual fact, the length of the dwelling, the side yard setbacks, which we do not have a variance for, is not unusual. If I could have 30 more seconds, please, I could probably finish my presentation. Building height.
Okay, we're going to time you. 30 seconds.
Okay, the building height is really just a matter that we are a flat roof, but as you saw on the photographs, we will be of a very similar building height of the other homes that have a garage and 2 living levels above it. You can see view number 4. We will be very similar to that building height. You can see view number 6. We will be very similar to that overall building height. There's nothing unusual. It's just that bylaw 569-2013 has a very specific flat roof building height, but that should not, in terms of community impact or anything. And the LPAT, when they approved that bylaw, left it up to individual circumstances to review. The 2 versus 3 stories is that the basement is included. It's just a particular measure of bylaw 569-2013, but this presents like the other homes in the area.
Okay, I'm going to stop you now. That's way beyond 30 seconds. Can you just tell me?
I can answer any question.
Yeah, we will, but we have some opposition speakers, so we'll go to them first. But before I go there, can you tell me what the FSI is without the garage and the basement?
Oh, yes. The FSI without the garage and basement is 0.9.
0.9?
Yes.
And do you know the FSI just without the garage?
0.94.
0.94. Okay, so I'll come back to you after we hear from the opposition, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Amitabha, you've been unmuted.
Ms. Dawes, are you there? Amitabha, are you there? Can you see her? Oh. Can you maybe go to the second speaker if they're there, and then maybe try calling her? Okay, great, thank you.
Ruben, you've been unmuted.
Mr. Anastasio, are you there?
Hi,
Ruben?
Yeah.
Hi, can you just let us know your name and address for the record, and then you have 5 minutes.
My name is Ruben Anastasio, and my address is 28 LYNNDALE Avenue. I'm just the neighbor to this 2 properties that you're going to build. So I just want to know, is this only a 2-story or 3-story building?
Well, what I need you to do is to, they're asking to construct 2-story dwellings, but you need to state your concerns up front because there's no back and forth in this process. So if you have any concerns, you just state them now. You have, you have 5 minutes to do that. And then after the other person speaks, if we get a hold of them, we go back to the agent and he will answer all the questions that you have, okay?
Okay, so I just want, my concern is just I don't know how many meters is going to be apart from my dwelling for that new site, and also the I think there are 2 trees here, but I heard that I think they're not going to remove the trees, so that's fine. And also the parking area, right? Because what happened is most of the people here they are doing the side street parking, so I think it's going to be affected as well. And just the only other concern is the I don't know exactly what's going to be the exact measurement of that the parking via the driveway, because I'm too close to the driveway of this 32 Ellsworth. And I think that's all.
Okay. Panel members, any questions for the speaker? No? Okay, thank you, sir. Were you able to get a hold of the other speaker?
Through the chair, yes, we have. The person's going to be calling in, still has not signed in yet.
Can you hear me now?
Hi, who are you?
Hello?
What's your name?
This is Amitabh Das.
Yeah, I can
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. What's your address, sir?
26 Ellsworth Avenue.
Okay, so we're going to reset the clock, sir. You have 5 minutes to let us know your concerns, okay? And then the agent will come back and answer anything that you bring forward.
Oh, sure. Okay, so I just noted that there are 10 listed variances for this proposal, and I would like to point out that when you aggregate so many different variances, the effect can be measured, and actually that is my concern. So I have concerns, specific concerns from some of these variances, which I will just highlight. First of all, this first exception, where the floor area ratio is actually 1.365 times the plot instead of 0.6, which is permitted, which is a 227% variance. I'm not sure why this is called minor, and if this is minor, then I really want to know what's the definition of major in this case. And secondly, the third variance, which is the frontage. I think the agent talked about that. It is permitted is 7.5 and it is 6.11. And I know probably there are some other houses there of this similar frontage, but the essential difficulties we have seen, the practical implication of this is, of course, there is it adds to the congestion. Snow removal becomes an issue where you don't have enough space to actually remove your space. It creates a mountain, and it spills over into the road, and the road becomes very, congested and almost undrivable during winter. And so this is actually a 19% variance, and then maximum coverage is permitted 33%. Here it is 47.8%, which is a 45% increase. And then especially the height is 9.25 meter, which is, I think, much higher than I think all the houses there. One house that the agent pointed out, it might be nearer to that, but I believe that is even less than this. And this will actually quite significantly change the congruity of that neighborhood. It will look a bit odd and somewhat ugly, and it will also affect the overall, sunlight and all that on the neighboring houses. My house is not exactly the immediate next house, but it is next to next. But I'm actually worried about that too. And permitted stories, again, instead of just 2 stories, which is the norm there, it is 3 stories, which is again a big difference from the existing norm. And then finally the setback, which is again reduced from 6.255 meter to 5.71, which means again the open area will be much less. And there are 2 mature trees in that property, and I think agent mentioned that the front one will be preserved, which is a good thing. But nothing is mentioned about the one in the backyard, which is a huge mature tree, which is a very beautiful tree. I would like to know, have any clarification from the agent regarding that tree as well. So overall, basically, what I want to say is that So the consequence will be increased level of congestion, reduced open space, reduced parking spaces, reduced sunlight, maybe increasing fire hazard for the neighboring house and maybe the houses nearer to, congestion to those houses. It could be, I don't know what kind of measures they are taking to ensure reduced flooding hazard, and etc. So in summary, I am actually concerned that it will increase the general level of congestion. It will reduce open space, and it will make the neighborhood less desirable and less pleasant. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Panel members, any questions of the speaker? Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Goldberg, if you can speak to the issues raised, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In no particular order, I will say there is a tree at the back of the property. It is not proposed to be damaged or removed at all. The front tree, as I indicated, is proposed to be maintained. The height is not unusual for the area because the flat roof is basically the same as other houses with main walls that have a garage at grade and 2 living levels above. There's no other real parking arrangement that's available to create a reasonable building size without that arrangement in today's environment. And as I said, the top 2 floors are only 2,087 square feet, 193 square meters. These are not big houses at all. They will, in fact, in my opinion, fit in with the general character, both existing and planned character of this area. These are contemporary houses that are organized in a manner to properly accommodate what I'm just going to call a modest size. Someone did ask about the setbacks. The side yard setbacks are at 0.3. There is no variance for that, and many of the houses are in fact built to that standard. So we will be approximately 1.5 meters away from the building to the north, if that was a concern of the person. Someone raised the concern about there being too many variances, and I appreciate that comment. Sometimes there's a concern about there being a cumulative impact. But I looked at these variances, members of the committee, both individually and cumulatively, and I asked myself, is the site organized well? Is the building footprint in relation to the permitted amount organized well? What variances aren't being requested? Landscape, open space, rear yard setback. The front yard setback only relates to a second floor bump out that allows for a slightly longer bedroom. But in all other respects, we are below the building lengths, but for the bump out. And I would say that relates to the same for building length. So front yard setbacks and the building length variances relate to those bump outs that exist. And those bump outs are only on the second floor, not on the main living level. In terms of the congestion on the street, I will re-emphasize, we are creating 2 houses, but we will only have 1 curb cut. So I think that is of great benefit to the street and the mature street tree in the neighborhood. And I think that should not be overlooked. And the technical variance about GFA, by including the basement, I think overinflates the actual fact that we only have 193 square meters of real living space on the main and second floor, whereas the variance reflects that we have 266 square meters, which just is not the case. It's an odd measure and it's quite highly technical in nature. There was a comment about flooding, and of course that would always be taking place at the building permit stage. The building department quite ensures that there is no drainage that goes onto someone else's property. I think that addresses things, and I'd be happy to answer any question members of the committee may have.
Okay, thank you. Let me see if there are any questions. Any member, Mr. Said?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Mr. Goldberg, for all these elaboration. I have still my reservation for some of the variances. For example, the lot coverage. The allowed one is 33%, and you are having 47, more than 47%, exceeding 14%. You haven't highlighted on that during your presentation. And the second one, the building height has been questioned by the other speakers as well. Could you let me know what is the building height on the other properties adjacent to this, the right and the left one? And also please keep in view that those are not the flat roof. Your one is a flat roof. So yeah, on these 2 points, I need your elaboration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Said, and I will try to answer your questions the best I can. So if I could go to the 4th page on my presentation, as I indicated, I'll talk about height first. I'll just wait for that to come up. And page number 4, that one. So I'm looking at view number 4. There's 2 houses that were built, 11 and 15. They're sitting on frontages of 6.8 meters and 5.8 meters of frontage. And you could see they have a garage, a main living level above, and a second living level. In both cases, sir, and members of the committee, they have a very shallow roof. I would say they probably have a 12% roof, which allows them to be called a pitched roof, but in fact, it's actually from the streetscape, not a lot of that roof is actually visible. What you see is the parapet, that rounded parapet, and the pitched parapet, and there's a little bit of roof behind it. Whereas what we have is a flat roof. This does not present much differently than a flat roof, but there's different standards that relate to height as it is. So our height will be very similar to the eave height that exists on these 2 homes. In terms of the lot coverage, I'd ask that go to the 2nd page of the presentation, please. There you go. Oh, no, right there. So you can see where we are. And if you look at the site plan, our footprint is very similar to the footprint that exists for the 2 houses, the 7.6 meter wide houses to the immediate south. We line up with them on the south, we line up with them on the north, and I'll show by showing you that. If you could go to the site plan on page 6. Right there. So you could see the building to the south. We line up at the front. They are, just a smidgen longer than us at the back. And we have very similar coverages at the front and the back and the rear yard setbacks. Both of these are modern homes that have been more recently built. And as I say, but for the bump outs, we wouldn't have any building length variance before you. But the bump outs are those 2nd floor cross-hatched areas at like looking at part 1 at the northeast corner of the building and at the southwest part of the building of part 1 at the back. Other than that, the building is fully flush with the darker or more bolder line, which fully complies with the building length and building depth and would basically be very close to matching the footprints of the buildings to the south. I think that qualitatively it shouldn't, in my opinion, be about the number, but how does the property fit within its environment? And an important 3-dimensional measures and standards that you are in fact adhering to. And we're adhering to the front yard setback, but for the 2nd floor bump out. We have no variance to the rear yard. We have no variances to the side yard. And but for the bump out, the 2nd floor bump out, we would have no variances to the building length as well. So I think, in some respects, these matters are technical in nature because the site is quite conventionally organized relative to the bylaw. And this, as I've indicated, would be very similar in building coverage to the two lots that are to the south. And one of those lots was of one of the speakers that just spoke.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Ms. McCauley.
I have just a question as to what he calls the bump out. I have that you're asking for a variance for the rear platform of 12.5 meters squared versus the accepted 4 meters. So is that rear platform of 12.5 meters squared, is that what you're calling the bump out?
No, Ms. McCauley. I can't show my cursor, but if you look at part 1, there is a very small, and I can give you the dimension. It is 0.6 of a meter. Right where the cursor is, that's at the front.
Okay, so
That's
your bump out is at the front.
No, well, there's one bump out on the second floor at the front, and that's that cross-hatched area that's 0.6 of a meter. Then if you go to the back of the same dwelling, there's another cross-hatched area that's another second floor bump out. The deck is where you see the dimension 2.36 meters. And that's the deck that has a variance of 12.5 square meters. And I'm going to advise committee, this applicant is not going to live or die on the sword of a rear deck variance. If it's in the wisdom of the committee that the rear deck variance should not be approved or it should be some other lower number, this applicant is not going to live or die by that. But I will say 2.36 meters is 7.7 feet, and it just spans the width of the house. So basically, if it was the 4 meters, if the 4 square meters, it would basically be half the width of what it is. Again.
Okay, I think you've explained the bump out. Are there any other questions? Okay, we don't have any other questions, Mr. Goldberg. So I think we'll take it into committee. Ms. McCauley.
Okay, thank you. I have a concern with these new lots that we're getting on Aylesworth. We've had a number of them. They always cause us some concerns. We're in support of new development, but one of the things that we have to look at is how does it fit into the overall character of the community. In this case, the proposal is for consents of 6.1 meters. Those are the smallest frontages on the street, with the exception of one application at 5.8 meters way down at the bottom. So everything else on that street is more than 6.1 meters. So that causes me a bit of a concern. Are we going with the 6.1 meters? Then I look at the variances. And the variances with a floor area of 1.365 times the lot area. That is versus 0.6. And even if we only go to, as he's explained, go to taking off that one floor, the basement floor, he's still at 0.9 times the lot area. So that's a concern. I've got a smallest lot on the street. I have a huge floor area. I'm not as concerned about the 3 stories, although I am somewhat concerned about the height. Why does he need 9.25 meters in height with a flat roof? That's supposed to be 7.2 meters. His coverage, too, is 47.8 versus 33. Basically, what I'm looking at here is smallest lot on the street, and 2 of them, largest floor area, largest coverage and an issue of both the height and building length. I'm not going to concern too much about the building length and the building height. I'm really concerned about the overdevelopment on this property. And so those are my comments at this time.
Okay, anyone else?
I'll just say briefly, I agree with Member Macaulay. I think this is, the houses are too big for the lot sizes, which are the smallest on the street. And I think I'm simpatico with you, Member Macaulay.
But Madam Chair, can we approve the one part of the application, which is the consent application, and we can think about doing some partial approval for the minor variance application on that, or should we have to approve altogether?
No, I think we can approve the consent and then not approve certain variances on the other ones if that's what you're thinking.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I'm of the mind that I think that this is not sort of breaching the lot pattern on the street. I know it's the smallest one, but it's not like they're, you know, huge lots and you're all of a sudden going to a small lot. They're very close, a lot of the lots. So I don't have a problem with the consent myself.
Yes.
In terms of the house, there's a lot of new houses. This is a different style, and these tend to stand out more also and look bigger when you put that into, you know, into sort of the regular kind of roofs, and you put a box style house in it, it does tend to stick out more. So, but you know, what, did you have something in particular in mind with the variances? I'm just curious which ones.
Yeah, the one which Member Ann mentioned. You are absolutely right. The consent is very much as per the character of the street, because all of others, they are closely blended. But the minor variance, the variances require especially the height, 9 meter, more than 9 meter for a flat roof, and the lot coverage is the overdevelopment. If the applicant can look into that again, and or is the applicant is flexible in this?
I don't know if you want to ask if he would be open to deferral.
Through the chair, are you? I just want to clarify. You are in committee, correct?
Yeah, we are in committee. I was going to say then if that's something we want to ask, then we come out of committee and ask the agent. It's up to you. I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
We debate these areas because there are changes, and it's difficult to say what is a good change and what is going overboard. I've already indicated I'm worried about the smallest lot size. I'm worried about the development because we got 10 variances
Right.
for each of these. And they're significant variances, you know, the lot area, the coverage, the building length. They're really trying to overbuild on this lot. I'd be interested in knowing whether the applicant would be willing to defer this application and re-examine his variances.
Okay, we can come out of committee. I'll come out of committee, and if I could have Mr. Goldberg on the line again. Are you here, Mr. Goldberg?
I am here, ma'am.
I guess you've been listening to some of the discussions in committee. So the question is, would you be open to a deferral to revisit your variances, or would you like us to just deal with the application today?
I think I know the answer, which is to support the deferral. But is that just the deferral of the minor variance, but you would deal with the consent today?
I'm looking at my deputy secretary treasurer, and he thinks it's probably better to do everything, come back and just do everything at once. You know,
in fairness to my...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, in fairness to my client, I think I think I will express on their behalf that would be better to be deferred than to be denied, so that we can examine this, and we'd like the opportunity to do that, please.
Okay. I think that's a wise decision, actually, because I think there's some improvements that can be made. Okay, so let's take it back into committee then. So members, we're voting on deferring the application as a whole, and would it be sine die then? So it'll be sine die, Mr. Goldberg, so the sooner you can come back with revisions, the sooner you'll get back on an agenda.
Through the chair, just, I think we just need to clarify the reason in your motion.
Yep. Okay, so we are deferring this. We're going to vote on deferring this to give the applicant an opportunity to revisit the variances and to hopefully make revisions and come back with a more acceptable proposal that fits within the fabric of that street.
And through the chair, just, what we will reflect in the minutes, it's at the applicant's request.
At the applicant's request, and I would like to add, as if you could add, and also for consultation, I think, Mr. Goldberg, I'm assuming you're listening, the speakers at 26 and 28 took the time to wait around for a long time today, and I think it would be really great if you could, contact them and show them any revisions, and hopefully you'll have support the next time. So I think
thank you.
Okay, so panel members, so to the deferral then. Ms. McCauley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. With the applicant's concurrence, I recommend deferral of the consent application and the 2 variance applications for 32 Aylesworth Avenue.
Okay, do I have a seconder for the motion?
Sine die, it's okay.
Sine die, yeah.
Sine die, yep.
Mr. Taylor, second.
I'll second that.
Okay, so the motion is to defer the application to allow the applicant to make revisions and come back with something that is a better fit for the neighborhood, and also to consult with the neighbors. And that is moved by Ms. McCauley and seconded by Mr. Taylor. All in favor? That carries unanimously. Okay, folks, this is my final meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Hey.
It's been nice ending here at Scarborough, and we stand adjourned at 3:30. And thanks
Thank
to
you.
the staff for
Thank you so
helping out.
much. Thank you.
On to new things, yeah.
Mic's off, guys.